What's up, guys? RB Grinder. Today I'm going to be going over 5 things to improve at competitive Riftbound. Obviously, the game isn't out yet. We're still waiting on all the reveals, which should be finished around July 28th, but it's still good to kind of hone down on some things that you can do to improve at the game. I come from a competitive card game background, so I have experience trying to improve at these games, and a lot of them are universal, and some of them will apply specifically to Riftbound. So let's get into it and go over all 5 things that you can do to improve. Now, the number one thing you could do to improve at Riftbound is deck building. So deck building, you can have proper mana curves. It's really important to learn how to use a geometric calculator as well to make sure that the math behind your deck list check out. Obviously, when you're starting out, you're probably going to be just net decking a lot of other lists that you find online, trying to like get inspiration and figure out how you like to play the deck. I always recommend playing a net deck first to figure out why people made certain choices in their deck building. And then after that, you can tailor it as you play the deck to add and take away things that you think are bad or things that you think could be better or improved upon. Add different curves, add a higher mana curve, a lower mana curve, add more removal, less removal, more spells, less spells, more hiddens, less hiddens, more creatures, that kind of stuff. But no, the number one thing to kind of knowing what to do there is using a geometric calculator, as well as just being able to deck build properly. How you use a geometric calculator is you have a bunch of different numbers on here, and the numbers are going to correlate to what you can do. So first you're gonna have population size. That's gonna be 39 because you're playing with a deck of 39. Now, if you're trying to see how likely you are to draw a card in your opening hand, you're gonna actually have it set to 7. The reason you're gonna have it set to 7 is because you're gonna draw 4 for turn. You can mulligan up to 2, and then you can draw for turn as well. So you can technically see 7 cards when going first or second. Successes in population, that's how many cards in the deck. So if you're playing just a playset of it, 3. If you are playing like 2 mana or like 6 2-mana cards, you can set it as 6. And successes in samples, just the number of them you want to see. So if you want to see 1 2-drop going second or first, and you have 6 2-drops in your deck, the math will be as shows. The next thing you could do to improve, is don't miss lethals, aka 8 points or 9 points if you have a specific battlefield to win the game. And what I mean by that is you need to make sure that when you are in a position to finish the game and win the game, you finish the game and win the game without messing it up and identifying when you have potential to win the game. If they have mana up, you need to take that into account. So if you're at like, they have 6 mana behind and you're trying to go for lethal, you need to make sure that you know they have 6 mana behind, or if they have no mana behind, you have to play accordingly and make sure that you don't miss your lethals. Because the number one way you're going to lose games is by missing lethals when you have the opportunity to get lethals. It's going to make the biggest difference in your gameplay as far as finishing out games, because when you give that opponent that extra turn, there's just so many things that can go wrong. So you need to make sure to end the games when you can, because otherwise your opponent might do it for you. The number 3 thing is plan ahead with mana. Okay, don't like recycle mana if you have the option to do a stronger plan the next turn. So let's say you have like 3 mana up, next turn you're going to have 5 mana, but you have 2 choices in your hand, and you could either play a card that costs 3 mana, recycle 1, or you can play a card that costs like 2 mana and it doesn't recycle any. And in your hand, you have a really good 5-drop. Keep in mind, if you play the 3-drop that recycles a mana, you're set behind on your mana curve, and you're going to go to 4 mana, so where you can't actually play that card that costs 5 mana on the following turn. So make sure you plan ahead with your mana. Don't just cast it. Make sure you're planning for the turns ahead and realizing how much mana you're going to have throughout the game, not just at the beginning and not at the beginning of your turn. Don't plan for just your turn you're in, plan for the turn ahead. Number 4, play the game as much as possible. Practice the same deck, one trick a deck if possible, and get more reps in. The number one thing is just playing the game. If you play the game, you're going to see different decks, you're going to see different play styles, you're going to see how people make different choices, and you're going to be able to see what's happening. As far as practicing the same deck, when people were getting into League of Legends, one popular thing you could do to kind of get elo quicker in that game was one trick, one champion. So you can learn the ins and outs of that one champion. And then once you get to learn the ins and outs of that one champion, you know everything about that champion, and you know how it interacts with each different champion and how it interacts with the game. So that being said, if you're playing one deck, it's going to be a whole lot easier to learn how your deck interacts with other decks than it is going to be to learn every deck and how every deck reacts with each other deck. So if you're going to not have as much time to play the game, one tricking a deck is the best way to get a little bit more of a competitive edge, because a lot of the things that will happen in these games you've seen before. That goes to talking about getting reps in. So reps in is just getting games in and learning each time you play a game and just seeing the same stories over and over again. That way, when you're playing a game, you can kind of tell what's going to happen before it happens. For example, let's say someone plays a 3-drop and then passes, and then they play another 3-drop and they have 2 mana or 3 mana behind. If you've played the game a bunch, you might know what spell they're saving the mana for, and you could play around it accordingly. So kind of playing the game over and over again, losing, winning, lots of losing, you're going to learn a lot of things over time to help you learn how to improve and win the game. The number 5 thing is to rewatch your games. Now, rewatching games to see where you misplayed or missed an opportunity is super important. In every card game, there's going to be things that are outside of your control that make some games completely unwinnable, but not all. I'd say a vast majority of the games are going to be winnable and more winnable than you thought. Blaming your losses on things that are going to be outside of your control, like drawing a bad hand, or your opponent sacked you, they drew perfect, they drew the outs, it's going to lead to a very bad time and a negative feedback cycle to where you're actually not going to be improving or focusing on the things that you need to improve on. Try to ignore these things. If it's an unwinnable game, it's an unwinnable game. It happens, but try to take any loss you can to identify what you could have done better, whether it be deck building, proper play, table talk, any of those kinds of things that are going to help give you a little bit of an edge and help you make perfect decisions each game is going to be the thing that you need to do. I personally think rewatching games is one of the best things you can do to kind of go over your game, see where you made mistakes, because sometimes when you're looking at a game, a decision that you thought was correct will be actually the wrong decision in hindsight when you're looking back at it. So you really need to make sure you can kind of come out of that and look at your games with an open mind. Not that you played perfect or whether you did, that you can kind of look at them and see if you made any mistakes that are fixable. This was 5 quick tips to improve at competitive Riftbound. I really appreciate all the support you guys have given me so far. Please like, comment, subscribe. It means a lot to me. I know some of these are kind of generic. I will definitely be releasing some more videos on how to improve more in depth and going over commentary and even maybe watching some people's games and giving them input on what they could have done better. Other than that, I hope you guys have a great day. RBG out.